This scene from 1990's Total Recall, where Arnie cuts sick, is so brutal. And yet, I think it's great. But it took watching the 2012 remake to work out why. And I think it's about character and the differences between how each film wants us to feel and think about the character of Quaid. And I think we can see that in each of the versions of this one fight scene. So I'm going to break down these two scenes and compare their filmmaking and the fighting. Fighting is part of filmmaking. Characters are their actions after all. To look at how this change of intention manifests and what it may mean. But first, I have a confession to make. I like remakes. Remakes have given us some great movies. LA Takedown gave us Heat. The Thing from Another World gave us The Thing. I mean, even Shakespeare's Hamlet is a kind of remake.
To be or not to be.
And Hamlet led to both The Lion King and The Northman. But as a filmmaker, what I really like about remakes is that I can see and feel how different approaches to the same material, sometimes the same scene and sometimes the same moment, can have vastly different effects on my experience of the story.
I do what I do best.
I take scores. You do what you do best.
Trying to stop guys like me. End of story.
Whatever happened to a normal type life?
The fuck is that? Barbecues and ball games?
Yeah.
Which brings me back to Total Recall. Both films are inspired by the Philip K. Dick short story, We Can Remember It For You, Wholesale. Arnie and Colin both play the same character, Douglas Quaid, a nobody who dreams of a better life.
I feel like I was meant for something more than this. I want to do something with my life.
Something that matters, something important, you know?
Nope, not so much.
You are somebody. You're the man I love.
And that dream has led Quaid to get a memory implant as a kind of a holiday. In the Arnie version, Quaid freaks out in a sent home,
My name is not Quaid.
where he's intercepted by his friend.
Harry, how was your trip to Mars?
We've met Harry before, which is important.
Listen, I'm already late. Thank you very much. But
Now, this scene doesn't have fancy filmmaking, but I think it's got some really smart filmmaking. There's a few things I really like about it. From a fighting perspective, the choreography has this kind of deliberate crudeness, but it makes a lot of tactical sense. Arnie's Quaid is outnumbered 4-1, so when he initially strikes, he goes for 2 of them at a time, breaking up the group, and then he goes for the most immediate threat, the gun. Interestingly, in an earlier draft of the script, the fight scene starts like this. Harry holds a gun to Quaid's head, Harry starts to pull the trigger, Quaid throws himself forward, Harry shoots and misses. At this distance, I'm not sure how Harry could miss. So I think this change they've made for Quaid to go after Harry first really works for me. I totally buy the kick to the chest. Under pressure, it's a good tactical choice because it's a larger target area and is more likely to connect in a meaningful way. And then it progresses into these WWE wrestling-like moves. And I'm good with that. Wrestling was part of the larger fashion of the movement culture of the time. Let's jump ahead and look at this headlock. There ain't no way he's getting Arnie over, but it still looks cool.
And this is where you see how big he is, because I'm really struggling to kind of get the leverage over him right now.
And the counter hit is great.
By the way, here's one way to get out of the headlock.
This kind of wrestling is great show fighting. The moves are big and telegraphed so the audience can really read what is going on. Well, I think it's easier for the performers to make these kinds of moves feel intense and dangerous while actually remaining safe.
Well, he's not hurting me, but he's got my nose by the nostrils. He's laughing. He's giggling.
Strikes require you to literally pull your punches, which you can hide with camera angles or editing or just padding up. I just love this bit. Look, it's mostly a cheesy karate chop, but it's also a bone strike with the outside of his hand, which is a good martial choice.
So, if you fight 2 guys, there's a lot of commotion and pushing and pulling. Nobody's squeezing here. Everybody squeezes at the end of the impact. That's when it comes to full squeeze. So at the moment when it's on its way, it's not squeezed. So if suddenly a target is there and puts his hand in, you're gonna snap your hand. The clothesline, I hit with this part, or sometimes even with this part. And I just swing it in as hard as I can. So, a lot of commotion, Open hand strikes.
And notice how there's no music? Just great sound effects. Someone had a real fun time cracking nuts in the Foley studio. It sounds as brutal as it looks. Close-ups cleverly also hide what the other goons are doing, so we don't have any of those moments where there's someone standing around in the background waiting for their turn to attack the hero when the hero finally turns to face them. In drama, we sometimes call these kinds of pauses air, but that's another video for another time. The claustrophobia of the closer shots are broken by the cut to this incredible composition. The rhythmic change here shocks us, as does the tableau itself. The streaks of blood and the scattered bodies. We're horrified. It's also a nice bookend. The wider angle was used at the start of the fight. But then the filmmakers smartly cut to the close-up on Quaid as he inspects the blood on his hands. We're now given time to see that Quaid is as horrified by what he has done as we are. And notice there's now some music, some underscore. This makes us feel for him. I love this shot so much that I've even stolen it and used it in my own work. At this point, I think we as the audience and Quaid himself are scared of what Quaid can do.
You call this a delusion?
And that's what I think makes this whole scene pretty brutal. They're not trying to hide how unpleasant it is for the goons or for Quaid. Compare that with the 2012 remake, where I think they want us and Quaid to be in awe of what he can do. And they've altered the staging and narrative to support this change of character. The setup is slightly different. Colin's Quaid never freaks out and never attacks a recall worker. In fact, it is the recall technician who is panicking. Suddenly a squad of UFB police storm the office and kill all the recall workers. And that means his friend Harry isn't in the scene, which means Quaid isn't forced to kill him. It is the police that are exclusively the bad guys. All of this makes Colin's version of Quaid far more of a victim, and that sets him up to be a hero. And then they do this really impressive shot, actually stitched together from multiple shots, that circles around Quaid as he takes down the faceless police officers. The shot is slick and it makes Quaid look slick. The move stays wide so we can see the choreography and the impressiveness of Quaid's skills. And there are some real nice moments of choreography. The elbow strike here is great. He's in close quarters, Bone hits harder and he won't break his hand.
When they get past the 84 inches, I meet them with a great short-range weapon, and that's the elbows. You can do it right side back, left side back. Doesn't matter what stance you are in, there's always room to find elbows.
But I also really like this moment here, which is obscured by the camera move. It's the wrist grab. He's controlling the weapon and then uses the officer as cover. A nice throwback to the 1990 original. And then we kind of move into gunplay. All of this makes Quaid feel like not just an action hero, but almost a superhero. Take this moment here. He makes one guy go flying with a gunshot that shows no blood, and he trips the other one without putting much leverage into it. It feels like it could be out of a Marvel film, because this was what was in fashion in the movement culture at the time. When the shot finally slows down to show us Quaid's reaction, to me it reads as shock, maybe surprise, but certainly not horror.
Holy shit.
Part of that is contextual. There's no blood. But part of it is how quick it is. Colin's reaction in total is about 12 seconds, of which I'd say 4 to 5 seconds are in close-up. Arnie's reaction is over 3 shots, which goes for 16 seconds in total, but we get about 7 seconds in close-up. I think that this extra time makes a lot of difference to how we feel, because it gives us more time to feel. I think part of this change of intention is because Colin is actually closer to the Douglas Quaid, with an L, of the original short story, who is described as a miserable, little, salaried employee.
Deep down, did you really believe someone like me would marry someone like you? Live in this shithole.
And so they've had to try and build up Colin into a superhero. Whereas in the 1990 original, they're trying to reconcile the idea of someone who looks like Arnie believing that they're an everyman.
In the original versions, the character was more like a kind of timid, nearly accountant type, which was completely a different approach.
I thought that switch from being powerful physically and then being put in the position of being vulnerable is a much more, a stronger kind of contrast. And that's why I thought that the character should be played by me rather than by someone that is an ordinary kind of a looking guy.
You know from the minute you see Arnold that eventually he's going to go in the phone booth, take off his shirt, and Superman, and here we go.
I wanted to feel like he didn't have a chance to catch his breath. That it kind of picks you up, you go through it, and then it's done, and then you can gasp.
Len Wiseman said his intention was to make it feel like Quaid was acting instinctively.
What's really going on with this science fiction concept, it's surface memory that is coming back, and certain things will trigger it. You're faced with this problem, and suddenly a solution arises. You don't even know how you did it. It's solved. I did it. Killed 5 men. No idea how I did that.
And I do think that's closer in spirit to Philip K. Dick's original short story. If he moved swiftly enough, dash, the gun fired, but he had already moved to one side, and at the same time he chopped down the gun-carrying officer. In an instant, he had possession of the gun and was covering the other confused officer. As DOP Paul Cameron, one of the GOAT cinematographers, explains.
If you look at the previs for this fight sequence, Colin is sitting in the tripping den chair. The federal police break through and they basically shoot everybody but him. And in a split second begins this fight sequence. And what you'll see in the film is basically 7 camera moves. So the cameras kind of wrap around, ones wrap around again, then they go up over the balcony, and they come back down into a close-up, and now he shot everybody. It's a transitional moment in the film.
Wait!
When the shot starts, the camera's going 20 feet a second. Another camera starts and crosses over, picks it up on a match frame, and now that's going 20 feet a second. Another one crosses over, so they end up in these very high-speed camera moves. Basically, operators were just chasing the frame because it's a very fast move.
This scene also reminds me of this moment when we first meet Trinity from The Matrix. I think it's going for the same kind of emotional effect. It wants us to feel about Quaid the same way we feel about Trinity, that she's cool and that she's impressive, and not that she's scary. And this is how these ideas become built into film grammar.
Shit. Holy shit.
It's worth comparing both scenes to 2002's The Bourne Identity. It has a scene with a very similar beat, where the audience and Bourne discover that he can kick ass. The combination of the fast cutting, the 6 shots in 6 seconds, and the clean wides and mid shots make us feel Bourne's violent efficiency, and makes us know that he's acting instinctively. But then we sit with Bourne in the aftermath for around 10 seconds in just 2 simple shots, a wide followed by a mid, and we can see that he is as shocked as we are. Because The Bourne Identity is a film about the effect of who Bourne was on who he is now. And that storytelling is built into the staging and editing of the scene. And I think that's a similar idea to 1990's Total Recall. At first, Arnie's Douglas Quaid is kind of horrified to learn who he was. But unlike Jason Bourne, Quaid also learns that he kind of loves what he can do.
As he discovers that, then he becomes, of course, a much crazier guy and a much more violent guy.
And this take on Quaid really fits the gleeful gonzo gorefest of Paul Verhoeven's Total Recall. And that's why I love this movie. It takes me from being kind of horrified to having a great time.
See you at the party, Richter!
Thanks for watching, and thanks to our Brains Trust for their technical and creative insights for this video. Hi, I'm Stu Willis, and this is Shot Zero. We talk about shot design, because shot design isn't just how something looks, it's how it works. If you'd like to support our work, consider subscribing, buying some merch, or becoming a patron. For more info, visit our website, shot-zero.com.